Hi, Com 140. It's Jenny Welliver, your instructor. I just thought I'd connect with you tonight and just see kind of how you're doing and let you know a little bit of a review of what we've been up to and what we're going to do the next week or two. Today is the 25th of January, so just giving you an idea of where we're at. First of all, if you've had any computer issues, as I know I did because we had something happen at Mott, I guess I would want you to, if you did not get a hold of ITS, to go ahead and call the call center or the help center at Mott, 810-762-0200. You can also call them if you have any concerns and you were thinking of dropping a class because you're behind. Just remember, don't drop anything if you think it'll affect your financial aid if you receive that. So that is a number that you can call. I know you can call or email the registration area if you needed to drop or something came up. So I just want to let you know that, we understand that there have been problems for students and, faculty as well. If you noticed, I really moved all the due dates to tonight at 11:59 p.m., so that's January 25th for the first 2 weeks of class. And the reason I did that is because I know some people could not access and get on their computers. They really couldn't get their work done, and I didn't want something to, keep you from getting that in. This leads into the other big issue, and I was told that the COM 140 textbook was not in, and they were having a very difficult time getting that in the bookstore. So this is what it is, Interplay, and it's the 14th edition. If you can grab a 13th edition off of Amazon, do it. I mean, I don't care if it's the 13th edition. It's by Adler, Rosenfeld, and Proctor. So this is what it looks like. There is one textbook, a free textbook on Mott's campus at the Durham Health Center, where the workout rooms are, and that's downstairs in the Durham Health Center. I know that Leanne left it there, so if somebody wants it or a couple of you want to share it, first come, first serve, you can get it. If you know of anybody else selling one, you can get it. If you want to get the e-textbook, that's fine with me. Yes, I was very clear in my syllabus and my beginning orientation that I use the textbook in this class. I really do. It's a good textbook. So, of course, I'm concerned when some of you cannot get it. If you are following the modules, and I want you to do that, boom, 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 just go right down through the module. I will give you a chapter summary, okay? Chapter 2 was quite long, the cultural one, so I want you to know that, it took me an extra day to get that in. So it is there, just like chapter 1 is. Take time to read those over before you do your attendance quiz or anything like that. So if you don't have a book, you should have a lot of answers. The other thing is, if you don't have the textbook, you're probably not able to take those self-assessments. And I know that the self-assessment for some might seem, like, well, why am I doing this? If it makes you more aware of a behavior you have or you do or you've noticed with others, then that's an opportunity for you to kind of grow from that. And I want this to help your communication and your understanding in your relationships. So that's the benefit of doing it. If you are not able to do it right now because you don't have a textbook, at least read over. In my assignment, I will say, do the assessment and answer these questions. At least answer those questions and give yourself some thought, like, am I on the computer a lot? Do I text too much? Is this driving me crazy? Sometimes I've gotten on Facebook or something and I'll be there for like an hour. I'm like, how did that happen? I don't even care what these people are doing. So I can understand that it can kind of cut into your life. For some people, it's a nice way to connect, especially during COVID when maybe you're not getting out enough. For other people, it's, where you go if you're just bored and you want to get on TikTok or something, I don't really know. But I get it. I just wanted you to address and be aware of your behaviors. So the self-assessments are helpful, but at least answer the questions for me, even if you don't have the textbook and you just read the assignment. I try to type up the questions from like the activities pages or anything like that so you can pick one and do it, all right? So there you have it. You've got one. I do a complete chapter overview that you can read, and pretty much everything key that you should know. There's only 5 questions on your attendance quiz. It should be there. And then the second thing again is, of course you can assume for the self-assessment what they might be asking you based on what I ask you to elaborate on, okay? So do your best and get your assignments in. Now, the first couple weeks, what we did is, and I've got the book here because I wanted to make sure I addressed some of this. First of all was just the interpersonal process. I wanted you to understand what this was like. Our interaction. It's sort of what you might have gotten in COM 131, where you have somebody that starts the message and receives the message, and then there is the message, verbal and nonverbal symbols, and you get feedback, and you're in a situation, all this stuff goes on. So I just wanted you to be aware that even in an interpersonal communication, we still have things going on. We could have messages running through our heads, so we're really not listening to that person, or we're not in a very good mood, so it's hard to pay attention. We're emotionally upset or excited about something. So a lot of things could be going on, and other people might not be good listeners. The one thing that does come up in chapter 1, and you need to know about this because your first paper, which is your first self-analysis, is about your communication competencies, okay? And I think it starts on page 19, but the actual competency characteristics are listed on page 21 through 23. Your paper is, I think it's a 2 to 3 page paper, and it is due on February 3rd. So I'm giving you plenty of time, and you're going to type that up, follow the directions on the assignment. But I'm going to tell you what the characteristics are. So just remember, first of all, in general, there's no one right way to communicate in every situation. And you probably communicate differently with whom you're with, or, if you're at work versus school. So all of that, it definitely makes a difference, okay? You can learn to be a better communicator. That's one of the reasons you take this class. Oh, there's my state jacket. Okay, I just happened to realize what was on my jacket. Okay, sorry. Anyway, but you can learn to be a better communicator. All those things are true. So just let's start with where you're at and recognize, well, what are my characteristics I currently have? How do I assess my competent communication? The first characteristic is a large repertoire of skills. And that means that you do a lot of different things when you communicate with people. Some people you listen to, some people you say different things to. We have different ways that we handle things, and you might find that you have to do a lot of things. Do I have to text this person, leave them a note, pick them up? Can I call them? Do they understand me? Do I need to explain further? What do I have to do? So you've got to be able to read someone else in the situation and know what it takes for you. Are you using enough skill to get across that person? So I would just say, read about that. You can Google what is a large repertoire of skills under communication competency if you don't have the book. And it just means that you're doing a variety of things to clarify or understand a situation or a communication. You're not just going to go, yeah, mm-hmm. You're gonna get engaged with this and find out. The second one is, I guess that'd be 2, adaptability. Sometimes we have to adapt to the situation we're in. So I want you to think about that, like, what is it that I need to do? I was going to see if they put one in here for you. Sometimes you have to decide if it's professional, that you have to act a certain way, or if you can just be, relaxed in yourself and very comfortable. Maybe it's with friends or at work, I don't know. But you adapt your message appropriately to the situation you're in. So are you adaptable? How are you able to do that? The third one talks about your ability to perform skillfully, okay? This just means that, again, you're going to use a lot of your tools, but how are you doing with them? Are you listening well and asking questions? Are you being patient? Are you putting yourself in their shoes and trying to understand where somebody's coming from? How are you doing this? So are you able to perform skillfully so you can assess what's going on in a communication? That is closely linked to the fourth one, empathy, also called perspective talking. And empathy is really putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. it's really easy to say, wow, I wish I had their life. Everything looks like it's great over there, but maybe it isn't. And if somebody comes and tells you something, if we judge and say, I would never be in that situation, you could be wrong. You could be in that situation. So empathy just means you're trying to say, that must be really hard for you. It sounds like you're frustrated. I can tell you're bothered by this. You seem very excited about this opportunity. You try to relate to the emotion that they're sharing and see, we don't have to have the same exact experience to relate if you've had an emotion. So, somebody else may have lost a loved one and you've only lost a pet, but you've experienced loss, okay? You have to, how do you find that empathy to try to put yourself in their place and try to understand where they're coming from? Now, so that's the same thing as perspective talking, because I'm looking at it from my point of view, you're looking at it from your point of view, so just try to understand, well, if I was raised like that, I might feel that that was my only option as well. So let me think about that for a while. Okay, the fifth one is called cognitive complexity, and that says, and the definition says, it's the ability to construct a variety of different frameworks for viewing an issue. All right, so something happens, and the first thing you say is, they're late from work because they're lazy and they didn't want to do this and that. And somebody else says, well, maybe they had to pick somebody up on the way in, or maybe their car didn't start, or maybe they had a serious situation at home and they had to resolve something before they could come in. Cognitive complexity is saying, think about what else might be going on. Don't just jump to a conclusion and think you know. I mean, I've done that. I've said things like, oh boy, I know why so-and-so isn't doing this, but I could be wrong. Actually, my son-in-law called yesterday and I'm like, oh no, what's going on? Excuse me. I should have water, but I needed the caffeine. Anyway, I'm like, what's going on? He goes, well, I'm out driving around. The kids are driving me crazy. I went, you can't handle your kids for like a few hours? And he goes, no, I just needed a break, and that's what I'm doing. I said, well, are you sure everything's okay? You got to know the background, which you don't know, but basically he's been stressed. So he said, yeah, everything is okay. It really is. He says, I'm getting gas. I'm taking care of some things, and I'm just kind of resting and using this time alone for 15 or 20 minutes to think. Now, I can relate to that. I wanted to get in my car before and say, you know what, I'm just going to take a drive, get a coffee at McDonald's, sit there and read a book and just chill. And I did this sometimes when my kids were younger. I mean, as long as somebody was home with them, just to do that. So that gave me a better set of complexity. Like, am I able to see that there might be other things going on and not just jump to one conclusion? Like, okay, you slacker, you're not home with your kids, you can't even handle it, what's going on? Maybe other things are going on. Okay, the last one is called self-monitoring. It's very important that we pay close attention to your own behavior and use those observations to shape it. In other words, you should monitor what are you doing when you talk to people? Are you escalating? Is your voice getting louder? Are you impatient? Are you being critical? Can you say, I'm sorry? So self-monitoring is, and some people, honestly, they just, drive you nuts. I've learned some people, I just go, yeah, got it, and I walk away and I think, not gonna deal with this. So, you have to kind of decide, what are you doing on your end? Self-monitor so that your communication can be effective. And believe it or not, these are not just with random people. In our friendships, in our families, with our closest loved ones, with people we have close relationships with, because we feel that we can be ourselves, and we are hopefully ourselves with our closest loved ones, well, you let it all down sometimes, and you think like, why are you doing this? This is annoying. I don't want to be annoyed. You kind of say what you want to say. Like, my husband's been working the last several weeks. He was off for 7 months. Okay, 7 months. Now he's been working about 8 weeks. And since he's been working, he has not done the dishes one time. He has not done the laundry. He has not done any of these things. So I said to him yesterday, why are you not emptying the dishwasher or filling the dishwasher? Well, you're home. Yeah, but I'm also working. I have things I do. And I take care of the grandkids, like 5 days a week for a few hours. I got stuff going on. He goes, well, then I'm only going to wash my dish. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I made lasagna, so what about the bowl I made it in and the dish I had to use to boil the noodles? And what about all that? Like, so what do you want me to do, not cook? All right. I could have easily kept escalating and really started screaming about it, but there's no point to that. I just said I would like it and appreciate it, if you could take maybe a day a week and do a couple things around the house. I know you're working, good for you, but you're only working 8 or 9 hours a day. It's not going to kill you to help out. And then I would feel like, you're contributing. So that's all I'm saying is use your self-monitoring, even in your closest relationships. Are you being objective? How is your communication affecting that other person? You don't want to get them all riled. By the way, my husband did then do all the dishes and cleaned everything up. Yay. So, why not, right? But at least instead of letting the resentment build, I was able to tell him that. All right, so yes, just go ahead and use an approach that works, but monitor yourself because that's important too. That was probably one of the biggest things from chapter 1. And they also talked about leanness and richness. So for example, they talked about richness, that if you get a lot of nonverbal cues, that's what's great about face-to-face, and many of you put that in your homework. That's good because that means, hey, I can see what you mean. I can tell by your tone of voice and the way you're gesturing and rolling your eyes or not rolling your eyes what you really mean. Leanness is what happens when people are texting and they're like, what did you really mean? I wasn't really sure if you meant this or you meant that. So just be aware of things like that. We talked about that multimodality. So one of the questions was, what kind of things do you use? Are you you use a lot of different ways on social media or different ways to communicate to others. So yeah, multimodality, definitely. And I am too. I pretty much only text. I don't do a lot of stuff, but I do use Snapchat when I look at things that maybe my kids post, or I will look at some fun videos. I certainly use YouTube and TED Talks, and I like to do different things too. So a lot about that, and that's all I was asking you to do, is to think about if you are that kind of a person. They talk about asynchronous communication and synchronous, and that's important. Synchronous is two-way in real-time communication. Now, you could be talking to someone and it's kind of a back and forth thing, but think about what texting does, and this is the beauty or not the beauty. Asynchronous is that it is not face-to-face, it is not real-time. You can delay. There's a gap. So you get a text message and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to answer this. So you think about it a little while. You either don't answer at all, or you get to it later and say, oh, I was busy. Now, we've all done that. I know we have, because some people are just as annoying. So sometimes we just have to do that. But I just wanted you to think about what those terms mean, because those are the kind of things that will be kind of on your quiz. All right, then there was a lot of stuff in there about that. Chapter 2 is talking about interpersonal communication in cultures. So the two big things, one is we do have different cultures in the world. We know that the face is universal communication, so laughing is happiness almost anywhere you go. Crying is sadness no matter where you go. But the rest of the body, all of that nonverbal, is very cultural specific. So people walk differently in different cultures. Many women in Arab nations have to walk behind men. Not every Arab nation, but that does happen. Also, you have to cast your eyes a certain way if you are maybe from, Korea or different places in Asia. So you have to kind of understand that those are things that they do in that culture, okay? And we don't necessarily do it here. It's just something that you want to be aware of. So we have that kind of difference. Then, more importantly, is here in our own country, we have people from all over. We have people with accents down south, out east, Minnesota, the Upper Peninsula, lots of different places where people might talk just a little different than maybe you and I do. And we have a lot in common. We're all Americans, we're all in it to win it, all that stuff. However, we have co-cultures. So within our culture, we find groups where we fit in. So I may be a grandma. I just retired, yay, 30 years at Mott, and still teaching a little on time or part-time, sorry. But still, it doesn't mean that I hang out or get along with every person in my boat. I like friends that do what I like to do and travel the places I like to travel and read the kind of books I enjoy reading, go on walks, the kind of I like to walk. So there are still people that I feel like they're in my co-culture, okay? And that's cool. And you probably have that same thing, all right? That same kind of thing. So I wanted you to identify those, and I think many of you did for your homework. You kind of identified your co-culture. It could have been marching band or a football team or the people that you work with that you really enjoy. Because I know at my work, when I'm in advising, I had a few people that I really, really liked and I hung out with the most, without a doubt. Other people, they were fine, okay, yep, they're good. But I don't want to hang out with them because I really don't have anything else in common with them. So I would kind of go with the people I had the most in common with, all right? Because that was my co-culture when I was at work. So if you look through that, there were a lot of important things in there that I wanted you to look at. I wanted you to understand the high versus low context. I wanted you to understand all the other dimensions about individualistic and collectivistic societies. So make sure you are looking at all that so you understand it. And I wanted you to know about power distance. And power distance is pretty much in our country, low power distance. We don't really think any other person is better than us. We really don't. I mean, Tom Brady, great job, go for it, you do it, but he isn't any better than me. He's a better athlete, he's in great shape, but he isn't entitled to anything more in this world than I'm entitled, as far as I'm concerned, okay? Nor the president, nor the governor, nobody. So we should all feel like that, right? But in other cultures, they accept, it's almost like a caste system. They accept that many people in authority have the power over them. They can make decisions for them, and then they have to be obedient and follow what is said. And I'm not saying whether it's good or bad, I'm just saying that it is. So power distance is low here, low in Canada, low in most of Europe, but you will find that it's high in other parts of the world. And that's when you want to kind of know about their cultures so you don't overstep your bounds and you understand. I wanted to make sure you also knew about uncertainty avoidance, and I'm almost to the end, so hang in there for another minute. That's just because if you're uncomfortable with something and you're not certain about it, you kind of want to avoid it. So anything that makes you uncomfortable, you might want to avoid, all right? Otherwise, it might seem threatening to you. Now, for most of us, we're okay with trying new things and tolerating other things, and we like to learn new things. But some people are not comfortable with that. I remember my dad, he passed away a couple years ago at 85, but he would always tell me there's one important lesson in life, and I thought, oh God, here we go, death and taxes. No. His advice was that everything changes. Life is about change, and you've got to embrace change. You have to roll with it, you have to understand it, you have to accept it, because that is what life is about. And you think back to when he had to, walk to school barefoot for 5 miles uphill both ways, all that jazz like they told us. But, different lifestyles, and look how far we've all come. Now we have electric cars coming up. The Jetsons, which was a cartoon when I was a kid, it's going to be the real deal. We're going to have people flying by on little things, and we're going to have all this. And just imagine that we have cell phones now. What are we going to have in the future? I mean, are we going to have chips in us and people know? What are we going to do? And just press a button on our neck and talk to people? I don't know. So I'm just saying that is understanding helps. If you reduce the fear of the unknown, you understand more. And then that reduces the uncertainty, and you are less likely to want to avoid those situations. But of course, use common sense. If you're not comfortable in a scenario, you should ever put yourself in that. But just remember that was another term that you should be familiar with. So there's a lot in there that you can read about on your own, and I'm fine with that. Okay, so just a quick summary. We are going to be talking in Chapter 3 is your interpersonal self. And the important thing here is we want to talk about self-concept, and we talk about how we all construct different identities. That's really a big deal. We do what we call impression management. That's the thing about the internet. You could get on and be anybody you want to be, all right? And you can do that in everyday life. So a year ago in December, my youngest son had moved to California, first of all, and we went to, where does Clint Eastwood live? Yeah, Carmel. Okay. So we went to Big Sur and we went to Carmel. We had lunch at Carmel. We had a really fun, we hiked a lot. So it's not like we were just sitting around. And we had a wonderful time. It was really fun to see because it was so different. And my son's like, Mom, look at that. Check that out. That lady's wearing a $400 belt. I'm like, how could you know that? I mean, like, seriously, I've never spent over 20 bucks on a belt for you. He goes, Mom, I'm telling you, this is what these people wear out here. So I was telling someone else and I said, I can't relate to that because I don't dress like that. And she goes, but you could. I went, no, I couldn't do it, couldn't afford it, but you could. She said, you could dress any way you want to be in a situation that you want to be in. If you want to walk down the streets of Carmel and look like you're $1 million, you can do that. And I went, okay, well, I don't want to, so that's good. But it was interesting to think about that. That's part of impression management. We might look really good on paper and put a lot of stuff, but is that really representative of how we think and where we are? And I'm not against it one way or the other. I'm just telling you that we do that. We're going to be talking about this when we get into relationships, how we present ourselves to other people. But in chapter 3, when you get into it, it is going to talk about the importance of interpersonal communication and yourself. You've got to understand what's going on with you so that you can move forward and understand about relationships. Your first unit quiz is going to be February 4th. It's 25 questions, and it is going to be over chapter 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you don't have the book, remember you have the summaries that I am writing out for each chapter. So you can easily go through and find those and read it. All right, now I'm going to give you an hour. A lot of it is just common sense questions I think you can answer. But yeah, I want you to identify some of this. If you do have a book, in the back there's an index, so you could quickly look up a term and then refer to the page, so that's helpful. Or you could Google something. I mean, I know how to be a student, okay? I've done this. I know how to do this. I've taken classes at Mott too, where I've been online just for fun to take a class, so I understand it. I don't want you to cheat yourself, but I want you to learn. So how are you gonna learn? If you have to look it up to learn it, that's fine with me. These chapters are great, and my summaries are really right from the chapters. I might add a couple, things here and there. But that is what your first unit test is going to be on. 25 questions, 25 points, and it's going to have about 8 questions from each chapter, okay? So if you know most of the terms or you read the chapter summary and you see the things I highlight, you should do just fine, all right? So that's really all I wanted to say. I just wanted to tell you I appreciate all the effort you've been putting in class. This is longer than I wanted to be tonight, but maybe it will help some of you to kind of know what we're doing and where we're going. And just hang in there and enjoy your semester. All right, take care. Bye-bye.